Welcome to another movie plot. Spoilers ahead. Three childhood friends are whitewater rafting while being waited on by one of their families. Once they're back on land, the lead adventurer Juno shares a moment with Paul, the husband of Sarah, while being noticed by Sarah's best friend Beth. The married couple leave the girls early, beginning their drive home with their daughter Jessica. They start arguing over Paul's apparent absent-mindedness when the driver veers over the lines into an oncoming truck. A bunch of metal rods go straight through the car's windshield and into Paul's head. Sarah wakes up in the hospital after recovering and begins to panic. She imagines the hospital getting dark around her and begins running through the halls until colliding into Beth. Her friend tells her that her daughter Jessica died in the crash as well, and they all cry together. A year later, in the Appalachian Mountains, Beth brings Sarah out of her isolation to another adventure at a national forest. They discuss the fact that Juno left them the day of the accident 1 year prior, and arrive at a cabin to be greeted by her out front. Juno has planned a spelunking trip for the girls where they meet up with 3 other adventurers. Close friend of Sarah's the medical student and the least experienced spelunker of the group, Sam, along with her safety-conscious sister Rebecca, as well as Juno's thrill-seeker friend Holly. As the group get drunk and reminisce, Sarah mentions Paul's motto to love each day as her motivation for coming on the trip. That night Sarah wakes up and looks out the window, but a steel rod flies straight through her face, waking her up as it was just a dream. In the morning, the enthusiastic leader wakes all of her friends and takes them outside for a group photo. They begin a long drive over a rough country road, where Sam's watch begins playing up, and Holly complains that the only threat the cave they have chosen offers is that she might die of boredom. When they arrive, they collect all their gear, but Juno intentionally leaves the cave map behind. The group hike a long distance away from the road and come across the carcass of a huge bull elk, having had his throat torn out by something. Finally arriving at the cave entrance, all the women except the tomb raiders Juno and Holly become hesitant at the deep opening. Juno leads the way as she rappels down into the first pocket of the cave, followed by Sarah, then the rest of the girls. Sarah notices what looks like bloody claw marks on the cave rock, but they descend further still, squeezing through a series of narrow caves until all daylight vanishes. Arriving at a new opening, Juno lights some flares and illuminates a huge cavern of the cave system. After some looking around, they sit down for lunch while Holly records her beautiful surroundings with a night vision camera. Juno tries to apologize to Sarah for leaving after the crash, but Sarah avoids the conversation by looking for a tunnel to bring them even deeper into the system. She finds a small entrance, so Juno and Holly descend to check it out, where the tunnel grows even tighter before popping out in a semi-submerged space of the caves. One by one the women disappear into the hole until finally Sarah, but she gets stuck midway down, sending her into a claustrophobic panic. Beth climbs back down and calms Sarah, reminding her that the worst thing that could happen to her has already happened, and to give a lemon an orgasm you must tickle its citrus. Suddenly the cave begins to rumble and the two friends race out of the tunnel as it collapses behind them. With the group covered in dust and distraught at the collapse, they discuss the location of the other exits to the system. Juno reveals that she didn't bring the map, as it wouldn't have worked since she has intentionally taken them to an unexplored cave, rather than the one they planned. She desired for them to be the first to explore them and have the caves named after the group, saying that the others are a tourist trap. With everyone informed of the wrong location, the girls have no one on the outside looking for them. Angry with her friend's ego trip, Beth reminds Juno of her walking out on Sarah, but Juno replies that Sarah wasn't the only one to lose something in that accident. Sarah doesn't hear her though, as she is busy distracted by the new cave system, and they must keep moving to look for another exit or they will surely die. The group almost fall into an enormous precipice in the tunnel, but in order to get across to the other side they must climb along the roof of the opening. With the bag containing most of their ropes lost when the tunnel collapsed on Sarah, Becca painfully climbs along the roof using only her arms, anchoring the rope to the cave ceiling for the others to follow. Arriving at the opposite side of the ravine, she notices an anchor left by a previous explorer, so she uses it to attach the rope. Each of the women cross using a pulley system, while tension between Sarah and Juno over all the lies begin to surface. Claiming that they will need all the equipment they can get, Juno goes last, pulling out the anchors as she crosses the roof. Near the end though, Juno loses her grip and falls, causing Becca to destroy her hand from rope burn to save her. The foreign link breaks free from the ceiling, swinging Juno into the cave wall, which she climbs up to join the others. Sam attends to her sister's hand and the group move on, encountering an ancient mural of hunters drawn by early Native Americans. Using a flare to illuminate the rest of the mural, Beth notices that it depicts a second exit from the cave. But as they leave the room, a drooling mouth is seen in the foreground. An anxious Holly runs ahead of the group, being lured by phosphorescent rocks appearing to be daylight. Despite Juno telling her to slow down, she slips and falls into a hole in the ground, and not being able to hold on, She drops into a deep pit, breaking her leg and leaving the bone protruding from the skin. The others rappel down and Sam tends to Holly's leg, pushing the bone back into place and making a makeshift splint from a pickaxe. Meanwhile, Sarah wanders away from the group and finds a rusty miner's helmet, before looking around the rest of the cave and noticing a creature in the shadows. A hairless humanoid notices Sarah and takes off. Juno surprises her but doesn't believe Sarah's story. She tells the rest of the group that there could be a person down there, but they don't believe her either. They continue to look for a way out of the cave, including Holly, who is now limping in pain. They climb a cliff face and reach an opening of the cave, where they use the night vision camera to make out the surroundings, seeing that the floor is littered with hundreds of dead animals. Suddenly, the man Sarah saw earlier standing next to them dashes past and disappears up the cave walls. They hear it running around them and try to flee, throwing their flare to hide from the creature but running directly into it. The creature then leapfrogs Holly and jumps on top of her, ripping her throat out with its teeth and killing her. The group starts to panic and split up down different tunnels, with Sarah shortly losing her footing while running and knocking herself unconscious. Juno gets to her friend's dead body, but the crawler comes back for its dinner, and a tug-of-war with the beast over Holly's body begins. Juno swipes the creature in the face with her pickaxe, which causes it to scream for help, so another creature jumps onto her from behind. The first drags Holly's body away, as the second begins to try eat Juno, but the determined spelunker reverses position and kills it with her pickaxe. Assuming the second is approaching her from behind, Juno spins around with her pickaxe, stabbing it into Beth's throat. Beth collapses to the ground, ripping Juno's necklace off on the way down. She pleads with Juno to help her, but Juno just backs away into one of the tunnels and leaves her to die. Sarah wakes up. She uses Holly's night vision camera to see that she is in a dark, bloody pit of all the creature's fresh kills, when suddenly the body of Holly drops down in front of her. Sarah watches on in horror as several of the creatures devour Holly, while making clicking noises like the echolocation of bats. Sarah gags and causes one of the creatures to come within inches of her face. Sam and Becca happen upon a creature in the same manner, but neither seem to be able to detect them as they don't move a muscle. Juno begins calling out to the others and alerts the crawlers, but Sam's watch begins to play up, causing a creature to return. She just manages to throw it away before the creature reaches her. Sarah strips Holly's body of anything useful, including the pickaxe, and makes a torch so she can find her way out of the feeding pit. Sam and Becca move on to continue the search for a way out of the caves when they turn a corner straight into one of the creatures. It tries to maul Becca, but Juno appears and stabs the creature in the back with her pickaxe, then breaks its neck. The doctor inspects the specimen to confirm that they are totally blind and rely on sound to hunt. Sarah is also searching for a way out and returns to where they came in, finding Beth still barely alive. While bleeding out, she explains to Sarah that Juno stabbed her and left her, showing Sarah the necklace that she snatched. Inscribed into it is "Love each day." Sarah realizes Juno must have gotten it from Paul as a gift, and they were most likely having an affair. Beth pleads with her not to leave her there alone like Juno did, so Sarah decides to mercy kill her with a nearby rock. Suddenly a crawler jumps on Sarah's back, but she headbutts it off. Being that it's just a small child, she curb stomps it into the floor and walks off. But another creature appears, this time a long-haired female looking for her child. Sarah tries to run but falls into a pool of blood. As she emerges and tries to climb out of the pond, she is attacked by the female creature, having been playing dead, clawing at her and pinning her down. Sarah manages to grab a nearby bone and sticks it through the female's face, killing it. She begins to play dead as a male creature arrives, failing to detect her presence as she lies motionless at its feet. With Sarah now mastering the ways of the troglodytes, she pops up behind it and smashes him to death with a large bone. Traumatized and bloodied, she lets out a scream that's heard by the remaining survivors. Juno doesn't want to leave without Sarah, but sees a huge amount of crawlers coming at her from that direction, so runs. Sam takes the lead and runs off down the tunnels alone until coming up to another precipice, and though short on rope, she begins to establish another pulley system for the others. A creature suddenly pops out and begins to go at Sam while clinging to the ceiling. Her friends watch on as it swipes at her and eventually rips out her throat, but with her last bit of strength, Sam stabs it in the chest before dying. One of the creatures grabs Becca and tries to drag her back into the caves, but with Juno preventing it, the creature rips open the screaming Becca's stomach, killing her. With nowhere else to go, Juno jumps down below Sam's body, landing in a large pool of water. But the creature Sam stabbed isn't dead and attacks her, so she digs Sam's knife deeper into it. Juno climbs the slippery walls, and as she begins to lose her grip, she is suddenly caught and pulled to safety by Sarah. Sarah sees Sam hanging dead above them and asks Juno what became of Beth, to which Juno replies that she saw her die but doesn't admit how. So the two run off together and continue looking for a way out, until coming up on a cavern with a group of creatures waiting. Sarah keeps her cool but Juno tries to run, setting the whole room off. A violent struggle ensues where the two now hardened spelunkers manage to defeat the attacking creatures, using their pickaxes, a flare, and their bare hands. Juno rises to Sarah silently already standing there, showing her the infidelity necklace that Beth had taken from her. They have a tense stare down before Juno is distracted by a sound from the cave, giving Sarah an opening to stab Juno in the leg with her pickaxe. Sarah leaves Juno to die just as Juno did Beth, and when the crawlers swarm her, Sarah hears the sounds of Juno screaming behind her. A disorientated Sarah then slips and falls down a tunnel, knocking herself out on top of a pile of bones. She wakes up to see daylight peeking through where the creatures get their food from on the surface, so frantically climbs up the mountain of bones and breaks through to the forest. She runs back to the car they arrived in and takes off, but eventually pulls over on the street to vomit. She turns back around to the bloodied figure of Juno sitting next to her and screams, waking back up in the dead-end cave with no signs of daylight, having imagined the whole escape. Sarah hallucinates her daughter Jessica sitting with her, and drifts off into her own mind. And the movie ends. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more.